So, hi, I am Marien Grace. I run the Bay Area Crop Circle Study Group, which is terribly fun, and I recommend that you come. It's really fun. And the title of tonight's show is The Great Awakening. Are you feeling it? You know, it's like, well, I mean, this is really silly, but I mean, there is some kind of way that this really funny thing by Rosa Chast does kind of make me feel like, oh, there's lots of ways that I haven't considered before. You know, maybe even that cooking smells are coming from somewhere. And, I mean, God, wouldn't that be amazing if I suddenly smelled something coming from another galaxy? Maybe that's what's coming down the pike is cooking smells. So I'm being really silly. Okay, but let's get started here. So, all right. So this was in 2005, and you recognize it as a scarab beetle, right? So. The scarab beetle, I'm starting with this, you know.
Scarab beetle? A
scarab beetle. Beetle, yes. So, and that's an Egyptian symbol. And the Egyptian symbol, the scarab beetle was a sun god. Khepra is the name of the sun god. And the beetle, you know, you think of a beetle, it rolls a little ball of dung, you know, so that either is a dung ball or the sun. You know, I mean, what's the difference? So, anyway, I'm being very silly. The scarab beetle would roll the dung ball and actually put its eggs into the dung. And then the dung would fall into a little hole, and then a little while later, you know, dozens of scarab beetles would appear. And so the totem for this particular symbol is that the scarab beetle, that Khepra is a god of becoming, and it knows how to regenerate from waste, and that it spins the cycles of life, and it assists in our transformational processes. This is very good. So then there's another story that's associated with the scarab beetle, and it's a Jungian story of, you know, Carl Jung, and so the story, this is a very famous story. Carl he was a psychoanalyst and, you know, a major father in the field of psychoanalysis. And he had a client, and the client was telling him a dream in which a scarab beetle was figuring largely. And, you know, the scarab beetle had a lot of mythological symbolism, so he was taking note of that. And he kept hearing a tapping at the window. And at a certain point, he decided to get up and open the window and see what was tapping at his upper story floor out the window, and it was a scarab beetle. And the beetle, this was, actually I need to research where Jung was, you know, in Germany or Austria or Switzerland, somewhere around there. And it was the wrong season for there to be scarab beetles around. And yet there it was at the same time that this woman was talking about the dream. So that was highly significant. And that feeling that there's transformational portent is definitely something that we can take on for what this moment may mean for us. I mean, we are in this interesting moment. Do you, I mean, yeah, are you feeling it? You know, are you feeling it? Give me some sense. It's like, there is this feeling that, I mean, we all know this 2012 date that's really just in a few days, it's less than a month now, and that there is this alignment going on, this galactic alignment, that whether physically our planet is actually where visually it looks like it's happening, I mean, those two things are different. You know, the galactic center is many, many light years away. So what we're perceiving visually is has already occurred, right? But nonetheless, the energy, the light that came from galactic center is reaching us now, and it's reaching the sun activating the sun and activating our whole solar system. And the solar system is like a crystal. It has patterns in it. I'm going to talk about that shortly. But so we're in this moment of an alignment. So we've got all this energy coming in. You know, this is either coming into the dot in the center or the off center, or it's being projected out. So in the past, I've looked at this and thought, my interpretation of this particular crop circle was, see what you're projecting. Know that you're projecting. Own that you're projecting. And see that you're projecting even reflections of yourself. You know, it's got this one dot, it's got, from its center, it's got these radiant lines coming out of its mind, the dot mind, and it's reflecting off of these concentric rings that are very similar to the dots. So there's, you know, maybe you've heard these ideas that we are projecting our reality, we're creating this reality. So for me, that's an expression of this. But then this morning, you know, I was looking at it again and thinking, oh, wait a minute, this could be energy coming in. This could be a bestowal in the other direction. And I liked that. And interference patterns are what create realities. It's, at least some scientists say that that's what's going on, is that there are these, you know, everyone's radiating something or other, and then all these radiations cross and crisscross, and where they crisscross, realities emerge. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that geometry, because I feel like the crop circles are giving us a language, helping us understand this language of creation. And the language of creation isn't mental. It's something that's happening through interaction and lines of connection and overlaps and things like that. And the geometry is a perfect medium in which to express what those laws of creation are. So I think it's giving us instruction. The crop circles are holographic and they're alchemical. So the language that they speak is alchemical. It's one where, you know, in alchemy, there's a intention to be able to really create magic. And magic is where one dimension can suddenly interact with another dimension. And they're natural laws, except we don't usually see them. And in the alchemical language, what they do is they use poetry and number and geometry, and actually almost any direction that you can approach something can be a revelation of meaning, which makes it alchemical. You know, when you get actually a meaning and an effect that, you know, something in here is transforming, which is what we really want to be able to be facile with. This big energy's coming at us. We want to be able to be moving in a way that we haven't moved before, you know, possibly with more magic. And that the alchemy, that's the holographic nature of the crop circles, or the holographic nature of everything, is such that there's so many dimensions, so many different directions that's in, you know, in this, in that. But you know, you can pick up anything and go, this is a holographic representation. It's so much more than just, you know, plastic. You know, it also has a function. It's got a history. It's, you know, it's got all kinds of things in it. And these obviously imply many more levels of dimension than we would ordinarily apply to just our pair of glasses. Every time you have an intersection, every time one thing crosses another thing, there's a possibility of a new choice. Every time we meet something, every time I interact with something, I have a new possibility. I can receive a new avenue of something, right? So this is like, you know, what would it be to receive, for instance, all these different choices at once, or just being able to see that there's a navigation going on. This unit here was the crop circle. This is work that was done by John Martineau, who publishes the little wooden books. I don't know if you've seen those. If you're interested in sacred geometry, you might have seen them. There's a popular one out these days called the Quadrivium. Beautiful, beautiful book. Anyway, so John Martineau did this work. So this is an old one from 1991, and he just took this portion of it and he started looking at the different ways that you could look at it. So, for instance, from this point here, if you draw lines out, they tangent this circle, and this circle. And if you stand right here and draw lines out, they tangent this circle and this big circle. That's one way of looking at it. It's like finding these tangents where it all is fitting together. Okay? So for instance, I looked at this and I saw if I had been in the field with this particular pattern, if you had stood here, this is so fascinating to me. If you were standing here and looking out, this little tiny tuft that's standing would have eclipsed both of these circles. You wouldn't have been able to see them. Likewise, if you'd been standing here, this little circle would have eclipsed this great big circle. This is a way of looking at alignments. So there are ways that, because of our position, we're not seeing the whole picture. This is like what we've been subject to for millennia, right? Is that we're not getting the whole picture. We're like, we have all these tufts of grass, you know, sitting in front of our vision, and we can't see what's out there. But then there's other ways of looking at this same thing too. So, you know, with the alchemical language, it's a matter of being able to step aside from your usual way of going at something and being able to approach it in a completely different way. So this is a way that they're like showing us, oh, there's a whole other way that you could view the way these circles are put together. This is the same elements, but without the line, but they're all the same circles without the line. And you discovered that all of those circles, there's this one, there's this one, there's this one, this, and this. All of those circles can fit together and create this other unit. They have a proportion that's, this is so out of the box. I never would have come up with this, you know, from looking at this original thing and then putting all of that together. It's just, I love that. It's, I thought that's just one brilliant wave of going, oh, it's like if I was standing at the right distance or something, I might be able to see that they all fit together like that. That something would go click, 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 click. And that would create this alchemical jewel. It's like suddenly something's been precipitated out of reality that we hadn't been available before. That's alchemy. Okay. So this was this year. And this came down right after the Venus transit. Did you all participate in looking at the Venus transit? And it looked just like that. I don't know if you saw it, but it looked like this little tiny dot traveling across the face of the sun, about that distance, you know. And which, you know, it's beautiful that it has that association for us. But then this is another way of seeing how things can start to pop out. There are lessons in these. A lot of people looked at this and it just felt too simple-minded. It just didn't seem like it had enough in it. But then Michael Glickman, who's one of a really great researcher in the geometries and being able to find all kinds of things that are going on, he found this geometry. So this is 22 points. It's actually 11, an 11-sided star. They're opposite each other and intermeshed. So you get 22 points over a 7-sided star. And if you put a 7 in here, this little Venus figure fits exactly in that angle. And these dots, I don't know what they mean, but they fit inside this 22-pointed star. And 22 over 7 is pi. 22 over 7 is pi. Pi is going to figure largely. Okay, so, you know, the fact that this references pi, but it's hidden, you know, you have to really kind of step outside the box and see if you can look. These numbers, these figures are things that, they're personal, you know. As I speak this, see if some way that this can start to resonate inside you, because they're here for our transformation, you know. This is the point. Okay, so this one, Barbary Castle in 2008, this actually is pi. This, in a number of ways, actually. So if you, this circle, all of these angles, they're 10 angles. If you wanted to slice it up into a pie, silly, there would be 10 angles. Okay, so then if you take each of these ratchets and count how many pie slices it's going across, you would get 3 pie slices, and then they even put a 1 there. A point there. 3.1415 9. I think 9 was next. Yeah, etc. etc. That looks like 2, etc. So on up. There are 9 levels of ratcheting up. Actually, there are 10 levels, but there's 9 that come to this path. This particular figure was set so that the 9th ratchet went right along this path, and that this line with this outer circle defined the squaring of the circle. The squaring of the circle is it's a figure where the circle, the perimeter of the circle and the perimeter of a square are the same length, the same distance, you know. So, and the idea alchemically, you know, the square represents this level of reality. It's, you know, we're surrounded by squares, you know, these 90-degree angles. It's easy to construct with. You know, you got your vertical and your horizontal. It's very good. And the circle, though, is this radiant field that actually it's incredibly hard to measure. This unit pi, you know, this is actually an infinite number. That's interesting that they went up to 10 numbers, and then they have this kind of dot, 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 you know, an ellipsis, as if, okay, this goes on forever. There's so many things about this. It's so fascinating. First of all, this dot, dot, dot actually, the proportions of it also square the circle. If you have an exact figure, which you can't find by using a compass and a square, it's always going to be off a little bit. But, you know, with computers these days, they actually can. You can draw a circle and a square that have the same distance. And if you start with perfection, then these 3 circles are proportionate in there. You'll find those 3 circles in a perfected circle of the square, circling of the square. And I don't have the diagram in this talk to show you that. Just go with it, believe me. Okay, and then, but another thing that's really interesting is they went up to 9. And they define the circling of the square, and then it jumps to 10, the 10th digit. And with 9 and 10, you know, we live mostly in a base 10 world, but there are actually only 9 digits. Every time you jump past 9, you're actually like jumping a dimension. There's, you know, you have another placeholder. That's in the field. You know, you can go 1 through 9 all on the same spot. You go to 10, suddenly you're in a different place, right? So to me, I'm seeing, again, there's this feeling like, oh, there's an expansion here. And that those 3 dots, there's a theme in lots and lots of crop circles of expanding dots. And it always feels like they're coming in from far away, like there's, you know, something advancing towards us. And so for me, I see this depiction of pi with something coming towards us from the next level of dimension to help us in this infusion of this unwieldy spirit into our manifest reality. There's actually lots of different ways that you can approach pi. It's something that is, it's a dancing number. It's a dynamic number. And 22/7 is the way that Pythagoras came up with how to express pi, but it's an approximation.
So that's an approximation.
It's an approximation, yeah. In fact, any written number is going to be an approximation. No matter if you've got 100 decimals out, it's still going to be approximate. There's always another level that hasn't been included.
I love it.
Yeah. So, which, you know, that's spiritual counsel to me, is to know that there's always going to be another level of dimension to include. I'm talking a lot this time about numbers because I think, you know, there's so much of that in the fields. And they are an alchemical language, and for us to start to relate to numbers, now I'm suddenly wanting to count how many people are here, then, you know, it can give us information. So this is a ring of, well, actually it starts with 1 in the center, and then it goes 7, 11, and 13. 7, 11, and 13. Those are how many points we've got here. Okay. The thing that's really interesting about 7 is that that circuit all happens in this level of reality. 7's the spectrum, right? It's the Roy G. Biv. You know, it's all the colors of the main colors of the spectrum. It's the main
Until the
notes.
20th century, it was 6.
Ding. Yeah, really interesting, isn't that? Well, somehow it got shifted into 7, and it seems appropriate. And you know, there's 7 notes in a scale, an octave. So that number just keeps going round and round and round in this reality. It seems to cover everything, but it stays within this circle, this number 7. But the next number is the number 11, and 11 is considered the number of mastery. 7 plus 4 is 11. 7, if you can, maybe it's the 4th dimension of 7. If you can add 4 or multiply it times 4, then maybe you can come to the number 11. It's like, you know, these different functions of addition and multiplication and division. It's like you're applying different dimensions to these ideas. So, and that all can be done with alchemy. You can, you know, it's all about being able to see it from another angle. And then from 11 it goes into 13. 13 is considered the number of transformation. So 13, 12 plus 1, 13, 6 plus 7. You know, the number that used to be, the rainbow used to be 6 colors, suddenly it was 7, it had transformation. 6 plus 7. So, okay. They're teaching us about the structure of dimensional shift. I'm just giving a point of view here. I'm just letting you see what kind of is coming through this particular point. Please honor everything that comes to you. I'm not saying this is right. I'm saying here's an offering. Here's a way that I'm navigating that feels expansive for me, and maybe you'll find something of use in it. I'll give you a little bit of my number theory. The way that one of the things that I am proud of that I haven't come up with is that if you add 1 to a number, you get the expression of the whole of that number on the next level. So for instance, if 10 is your fingers, you know, 10 is 5 twice, 5 is 4 plus 1, 4 plus 1 is reality with action in it. You know, it's the phi ratio. You've got it in your body. It comes out your hands. You know, it has growth harmonics in it. That's 5. You double 5, you've got 2 hands, and you're able to create and do all kinds of things on this level. 10 plus 1 is 11. Suddenly I've become a master of being able to create something. You know, if I'm able to do all kinds of things, I find the wholeness of what I've created. 11 plus 1 is 12. All of these masters together, you know, there were 12 people around Jesus, for instance. And it's like, I see 12 as the number of community of masters. And then 12 plus 1 is 13. So the community of masters enable transformation. That's a progression that I like.
Signs of the zodiac.
What?
Signs of the zodiac.
Yes. Yes, all of them together is transformation. Yeah, for instance. Okay, so here we are. Let's see, we want to open an eye, don't we? And there's this is the Taurus field, and you know, I don't know if any of you saw Thrive, but they did a beautiful, just such a beautiful videoing of how a lot of the crop circles have this Taurus field. They might have even used this one, I'm not sure. The Taurus is the donut field. It's the field that's around. It's around our bodies. It's around the galaxy. It's around the Earth. It's this spinning donut shape. And so here, you know, we really want to have that toroidal field be completely open for us. And just to point something out, there's, you know, this direction of field is clear, but once we are able to perceive another direction of field, let's see, that's coming this way, you know, that's crossing over it, creating a interference pattern that's not expressed on the outside. It's hidden. It's hidden within our perception. So that's just a little reading. It's receiving an alternate reality, perhaps.
And these are all crop circles that pretty much people like yourself really think these are obviously authentic ones.
If something is authentic or not that's not something I'm going to go into in this talk. And I have talked about it before, and at this point I feel like it's all part of the dream. And if that level of being able to approach something from that point of view will yield a certain reality that you can travel through and find a whole route of interesting information. But
yeah, and you're not going to speculate then on the source of these crop circles.
I'm not going there in this talk. I'm really just interested in what's going to help us get beyond any kind of like niggling, you know, is that one real or not? You know, it's like they all might be able to yield information, and that's what's important to me.
Because even if like your house at the time you showed the video of these guys making that one, which looked like a pretty authentic one to me, right?
Yeah, I know.
And then my thought was also, well, sometimes even unconsciously when we think we're doing a hoax, we are still part of the design, you know.
Right, exactly. It's all part of the dream, and who knows what's directing this really. Yeah, even with the people that are making them, you know, who knows what's actually directing them. It's consciousness, for sure. And, you know, exactly how consciousness, that's what I want to connect with, you know. I want to be able to see what's being projected and really see on more dimensions so that I can see how things are manifesting in a way that I had never considered before. Okay, so for instance, this one, this is perfect. So, you know, this looks like you've got two different directions of looking at this. You turn 90 degrees and suddenly a whole other thing pops out. You know, this can look rather flat, concentric circles. This is actually a stereogram. Do you guys are any of you able to do this thing where you kind of get the images to cross over each other and then, you know, sync up and your eyes relax and suddenly you see 3D? This can do that, which is so cool. And now, another thing that happens when you do that is the third image that comes up is inside of what's known as the vesica piscis. And the vesica piscis is what happens when two circles. Okay, I'm going to talk about pi again. This is great. What pi is a relationship. It's a ratio of the measuring of the edge of our field to the center and our relationship to that edge. What you do, how do you know this? I love this. You're at your center. It's very personal. You're at your center, and you see something out there. Suddenly, that's the edge of my reality, and I see that person over there, that edge of my reality, actually reflects back to me. So I suddenly get this doubling of the radius of the circle that I am. 2r related to the circumference gives you the measurement of pi. Some people call it the diameter, but actually I think that 2r, there's this going out and kind of being reflected back. So when you have these two circles, you're at one circle, you know the center, then it goes out to the edge and suddenly that circle reflects back to you and sees your center. And when those two things overlap, you get this vesica, this fish shape, out of which everything emerges, out of which all reality, all geometries can then emerge out of that vesica piscis. So this to me is like just a hidden gem. It's just so beautiful. You know this?
Masonic symbol.
Mm-hmm. This is the classic Masonic symbol.
Square and
Was this a
compass.
crop circle?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. I have not seen this as a crop circle, but it applies. It's like we're talking about geometry and how humans relate to these geometries and what we can do with them. And this is a symbol that is representing the squaring of the circle. It's this is the carpenter's square. And again, 90 degrees, it's what we build with. And that this is a compass. And the compass is what gives you perspective off the flat plane. It's another angle of perspective. And with the compass, you can draw circles. And circles are, unless you know your center, you're not going to get a good circle. So, and then the G is a spiral. And some people might think it's the beginning of a word, could be God or something along those lines. And I liked this particular one because it has the eye in the perspective point, what would be the center of the circle drawing sphere, actually. It would be from a sphere because it's off the flat plane. Okay, so, we have all these associations with Masonic symbols these days. I don't know if any of you have been looking into that. They've gotten a pretty bad rap these days, and that it was a way to explore these sacred ways of understanding how to interact and build in this reality. I mean, the Chartres Cathedral came out of knowing this, things like that. So we were meant to be able to explore these sacred possibilities in this free will zone and experiment in controlling the elements and see what we could do. And it's just gotten a little off balance, that's all. Yeah, maybe a lot off balance. But notice this, the eye in there, it's a horizontal eye, and I don't know if you know what happens if you only have one eye to look out of. You actually lose perspective. You can't see depth anymore. So this is significant. So this is the only symbol that I've seen that comes close to what I would call a Masonic symbol. There are 33 rays. There's 11 on each side, and you know, they're 33 degrees in Masonic climb to power. I'm not sure what to put that into. This has the eye, you know, the all-seeing eye at the top of the pyramid. It's a construction of triangles. It's, even though I think it's brilliantly made, it's a brilliant expression. To me, it also speaks of like the height of what humanity might be able to do just, you know, with ourselves without being able to actually access from somewhere else. So it's access inspired realities.
The thing around the eye thing, the iris part is sort of...
It's bitmapped. It's
Bitmapped,
yeah, it's bitmapped in triangles. It's you're talking about how this is put together? What are you talking about?
Yeah, the circle around the
This part?
octagonal center. Yeah.
Yeah, it's bitmapped.
What do you mean bitmap?
In other words, it's on a grid. This was divided up into a triangular grid, and then they filled in the dots, kind of like how they make patterns on a computer screen. All these little bits are filled in. It's not a clean arc from a center. It's something that's been gridded, and they found a pattern in. And it's brilliant, but it's not really receiving the divine. Although, there is a wholeness on the outside if you're able to step out.
Yeah, in other words, that is intentional because it could easily be smooth curves.
Totally.
So that,
Yeah, totally.
right.
So,
I can see
and I
that
do think this
this
is, I mean, I think it's too brilliant to have not been authentic, in my opinion. But, I don't know, maybe the Masons got in there and did this one.
This is my favorite.
Okay, so that eye, this is not going to get us out to the galaxy, having a single eye that has no perspective. That's not going to get us. We somehow need to get to the one that's like really buried deep in there, And here's another, the pineal. This is what I'm talking about. And the pineal it's in there, it's pointing up. It actually has rods and cones like an eye does. And they're in a pattern, and that pattern is pine cone patterned. Something like this. This is interesting. This is 44 radial lines, each one of these points, there are 44 of them. And then there are 14 circles that this is based on. 44 over 14, half that is 22 over 7. It's pi. We have pi again here. So there's this amazing, amazing geometry that's going on. What?
It's the sunflower pattern.
Right. It sure looks like a sunflower pattern. Sunflower pattern actually has a phi ratio going on out of it. It's got one number going in one direction, and the next level of the Fibonacci series is going in the other direction. So, but nonetheless, you definitely associate that sunflower pattern with it. And so if you were to imagine energy hitting this, which is what's happening to your pineal, we've got this galactic light that's somehow penetrating into the darkness inside there, right? And, light's coming in, it's probably hitting the center point. And then what happens to it? It probably goes and gets like a disco ball. It's like, this is your cosmic disco ball. You've got the light coming in and it gets refracted out through all these different edges and, throughout every part of your body. This is, that's what waking up this thing in there might do for us, is to help this thing come out. So that sounds lovely. So how do we get that pineal activated? How do we do that? Well, oops, hello. Oh, wait a minute. There it is. smoky way.
Smoke a little.
That's real, huh? Real
You
keeps.
know, this guy obviously has his pineal well activated. You know, it's got 7 arcs. I mean, 4 levels. It's at 4 times 7 again. So we come to the number 11. You know, somehow every time I see those advancements as another level of dimension that suddenly is getting popped out into. This geometry, I'm not sure, but this looks very much like the same relationship of dots that circled the square that was in that first one that I showed you that did pi at Barbary Castle. It could be. There actually is incredibly beautiful geometry going on in this. I've put it in some other talks, it's online, where the ratios of the Great Pyramid are kind of like resonating all over through this, you know. So before you go, oh, please, you know, some hoaxers must have done this one and they were really high. I think it's real, and the lay was just perfectly gorgeous. These arcs, you would have been having to stand in undamaged crop in order to make these arcs. This arc too, you would have had to have been standing somewhere around here to make this beautiful round arc. Okay, so what's he doing? You know, he may be smoking something, and we do know that there are medicines out there that help to open up the pineal gland and let you actually see into some other dimensions, which is very useful right now. And, you know, this was in 2011, it was last year, they might be saying, you know, no time to waste. If you need a little boost, you just go right ahead, you know. And then the other thing, though, is that this might not be a pipe. This could be a horn. This could be something like a shofar, you know, the ram's horn that's blown on the new year. You know, maybe we've got. Have you all heard about all of the strange sounds that are happening all over the planet? There's these cities that you look up strange sounds on YouTube. It's unbelievable. Where there are these cities that are just having these, like Gabriel's horn is making these notes, and you can't tell where it's coming from, and it's wild. It's
Really?
just wild. What?
That's so great.
I know, isn't it amazing? So, and I have more about the strange sounds and a little bit later in here. So, you know, let's see if he might have some clues about how to wake up the pineal. This was this past year. 4 Mile Clump, interesting name. This looks like a molecule, does it not? Mm-hmm. And this beautiful arc. The redness that you see here, it was in a field of poppies. The poppies are actually weeds. So the farmer actually didn't lose any money by this particular one coming down in this field, which is kind of nice. Because it was already infested with these weeds. But it's gorgeous. It's this field of poppies. Now, this molecular structure, turns out, it is the structure of retinoic acid, which is a part of vitamin A. And vitamin A feeds the eye, right? And it's also found, it's red, it's found in poppies. You can find retinoic acid in poppies. And this arc here corresponds to the cornea of the eye, which is rather amazing. And it's a huge arc. I mean, to have found the center, to be able to make that arc, you would have been, you know, scattering poppy heads everywhere, you know, so. What did you say?
I see the retina in there also, behind the.
Yes,
cornea.
right. Well, this is a drawing someone put over the crop circle.
Yeah, would you go back just for a moment
Yeah.
so we can see what was actually there? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the cornea, here's retinoic acid. Now, this is at a place called 4 Mile Clump. I personally, you know, what's the effect of poppies? If you are taking poppies, they're somniferous. They make you fall asleep.
And dream.
Well, conceivably. But they also, what I think, well, this is not the eye that we want to
Opium.
activate. I think that this eye is the one that we need to close and let sleep. And they're giving us counsel about that. And that really, what we want to wake up is the one that responds to this molecule. This molecule is DMT. DMT is produced in the pineal. It is something, I mean, you can also take it, but it's produced in the pineal. And it's also, interestingly enough, it's the same structure as melatonin. And melatonin is something that you take to go to sleep and have good dreams. DMT is something that you might hope to produce or take in order to stay awake and have good dreams. This is all very good. Melatonin also is in the skin, and it receives light. It's one of the things, you know, people of color have a lot of melatonin in their skin, and they're able to receive more light through their skin. So it's definitely a light receiving molecule, and it's produced in the pineal.
How is it the same as melatonin?
It's the same structure, almost exactly. There are just a few little tweaks and you would have melatonin. I don't exactly know, but it's very, very close, which is really interesting. So I just want to point out, you have this circle of 6, and it's attached to a circle of 5. 6 plus 5 is 11. The relationship of 6 to 5 is one that's really interesting, and we'll get into that in a minute. But this, look at this. This is a drawing I found of a DNA double helix, and inside the DNA is this structure of a hexagon attached to a pentagon. You know, it spins on a pentagonal axis, but inside is this relationship of 6 to 5. And so maybe, you know, waking up like that is going to actually shift our DNA in some way. So, okay, DNA. So DNA has been in the field, or at least, so actually I know someone else who's an engineer that sees this as a schematic for a craft, part of a schematic for a spacecraft, which I think that's very cool. But, you know, my first association is with DNA. But this looks like a very limited, you know, it's like a little chop of DNA, almost like, okay, we'll take this piece out, like this is what the GMO people can do. However, this is a very different expression of DNA. It's, you know, DNA actually spins on like I said, the helix spins on a 5 spiral, but this has it related to a 6-sided geometry, and it's become a circle. And this particular figure at Crooked Soli had so much going on. Boy, talk about alchemical. I mean, you could look at that from any angle, where it was related to what was around it. There was a straight Soli and a crooked Soli, and this was like exactly equidistant from both of them in a you know, not a right triangle, what's it called? An equilateral triangle distance. And then the other thing that's so amazing, is the numbers that are implied in here.
What's
so,
Soli? What's that mean?
I don't know what Soli means. It was the area. It might mean alone. It might mean that the area was kind of soul. It was isolated, isolated from another area. It's kind of far away. I think that actually might be right. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So, this is, maybe you can see, it's based on many, many, many circles overlapping an interference field, and then you get this pattern of selection. And there are 504 standing tufts, standing little curved squares, and there's 792 that are laying down. 504, you know, again, if you add another level of dimension, put a 0 on there, 504, the number of standing tufts, is 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6 times 7 factorial. And it's also 7 times 8 times 9 times 10, which is really interesting. So it's referencing that. And 792, 7,920, 7920 is 8 times 9 times 10 times 11. So, you know, what's down is referencing this 11, you know, it takes us out one step further, and what's standing is referencing all of our reality.
Oh, oh my God.
Yeah, that's
This
a hoax.
was in 2002.
Just two guys with a plank.
After
Yeah, right.
after the close.
Yeah, I don't think so. You know, it looks like a magnetic field, right? But
Right, Michael?
this is not how we usually think of. We usually think of a magnetic field as something that's polarized. It's got a north and a south, you know. And
Yeah, it's
they're-
like 6 poles.
This is 6 poles, you know. These are I think of these as, you know, points of projection. You know, this could be 6 people or 6 points that are holding a field, and all these fields are interacting. It could also be the magnetic field of a cube, and the cube is this reality. So this is a different way of looking at what our reality, how our reality is constructed. And just to give you a little more of the numbers, each one of these pie slices, 1/6 of the pie has 11 diamonds in it. So this is a 66 pointed, well actually it's a 60 pointed star, but there's 66 diamonds making it up. Because there are 2 on every axis there. So.
This is 6.7.
Okay, so we got a cube here. Massive navigation possibilities of what you could do, you know, getting around point to 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 point. Where can you go? How many dimensions can you shift through there? So that had the number 6 in it. So this little cube, beautiful.
7707.
That came down on 777. Do you think that this 6 number may be needing to reference the 7s in some way? You know, it might be wanting some level of transformation, this cube that represents our level of reality. You know, it seems to be under great pressure. There were 2 other crop circles that came down on that same you know, auspicious day. This was one of them. You know, very clear yin-yang, and the yin-yang balances the polarities, and it's dancing. You know, the polarities are spinning. They're not static. They're relating to each other and spinning, and there's balance in there. And also they're surrounded by these little pyramids, these little stepped pyramids, which will come up later. We'll go back and we'll find those again. And then the other one that came down that same day was this one.
Oh.
And this one was actually witnessed. And it was huge. It was actually huge. There were people up on the hill that saw a flash, and it was recorded. You can actually find this online.
This is a little confusing. This is a medallion and then the picture
Right.
of the
Well,
crop circle
yeah,
itself.
obviously this is the crop circle.
Uh-huh.
And it was huge, but it looks like this Ohm symbol.
Oh.
So,
Oh,
you
I
know, so we have this little square, you know, this little cube that's needing transformation, that has other council coming on the same day, which is, you know, balance polarities, let the magic of pyramids, the energy of pyramids, also help hold the balance and influence, and Om, the sound of the universe, let that also come in and be interacting. And then what will happen? Oh, so what happens to the little cube? What happens to carbon when it's under pressure? It has galactic influence on it for many, you know, it's happening really fast now. You know, we can take our carbon, carbon 12, you know, carbon 12 is what, behind oxygen, carbon 12 is what we're made of. And I don't know if any of you have heard this, but there is, one of the possibilities that's happening is that carbon 12 is going through a transmutation to carbon 7, something that's known as carbon 7, a different form of, it's a spiritualized form of carbon, and it comes into being and gets used immediately. So they're having a hard time actually finding it. But this diamond, you know, has this reference to carbon 7, and there's, you know, this is a 16 striped radiance, but there's 7 above, 9 below. There's a relationship of 7 to 9. So where else have we seen this shape? Does it look familiar to anybody?
Well, it is a diamond.
Carbon 7, it's going to make us super people. I love this idea. So, think about it. Will carbon 7 give us superpowers? This is actually a 7-pointed star, and this is a 9, there are 9 dots in each of these things, and boy is that a torus. It's like, it's so beautifully drawn with this the second to last dot being over the last dot, so it really looks like you've got a toroidal field going on, and the donut shape. And, this little Superman, he's got the Taurus insignia instead of the S insignia on his diamond chest. And, he's, maybe this is about, his cape is flying. This might be about free energy. And the toroidal field is a lot about energy. That they do think that there are free energy devices that part of how they run is they are creating these toroidal fields. And he's got this little plug face and a little, as the plug, you can plug it right into the wall, and and we've got free energy devices going on. So maybe that's part of this carbon 7 awakening. It could be about healing the environment. This this was one that came down in 2 different days. This was the first iteration. It looks wonky. It looks pretty messy, But these look like seeds to me, and they could grow and flower, and it feels like somebody just kind of stuck them in the soil, but I don't know. That's kind of obviously it's something about growth. It's got this phi ratio thing going on it. But then they came back. They put a pyramid over it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Even it wasn't finished. More was added on later?
This was the...
There's a different one.
No, this is the same one. This is the same one. They came back and cleaned it up. Oh, to me, this feels like, with some understanding of geometry and careful placement and phi ratios, we might be able to heal biology. Boy, would that be good. And suddenly this is completely flowering. I love that. So, maybe it's about contact. Contact with other beings. This shape here, that's that alien head face. That's the alien icon, alien head icon is this shape. And actually there is, you can see it better in this one. They actually did lay the crop in such a way that you also got the eye, it's down to the ground, but with light and shadow you can see the eye arcs in it. So, again we have this compass or this square, compass and square, some knowledge about how the universe is constructed. This is how I read it. Some knowledge is being dispensed, and information is coming out. And then they came back, and then the information got expanded in some way. And then it got really expanded.
Wow. Oh my God.
Electronic circuitry.
Like super expanded. And, just lots and lots of information that we don't yet understand how to read.
Wow.
But, maybe with this pineal opening, or this bestowal of milk from Galactic Mother, we might be able to understand what this is about. We might have contact to be able to get the telepathy or understanding what that's about. Or maybe it's about dimensional shift. Being able to go through portals. So I did want to show you something about this. Okay, so there are lines. You can see that there are lines along inside these things, beautiful, just really beautiful. And those lines imply the cube. There's a cube that's inside those lines, connecting all these points together. So somehow, like here, you can almost see it. There's a cube here. And so to me, what I see here is that this reality has enfolded in it, if you know how to unfold, you know, and this looks like also that phi ratio pyramid, the tall ones, that if somehow you know how to unfold the cube, maybe we'll be able to make these dimensional shifts through portals and go beyond, again, go beyond our current reality.
I'm seeing 3 pyramids there.
Yeah, yeah. And we get to interdimensionally travel with our space family. You know, or maybe they're coming to get us. This is very similar in this instruction here. And they've got their space helmets on. Or maybe that's us, you know. That somehow the communal effort, there may be some way that actually aligning, there are all these meditations that are going on these days, and there's some big ones that are going to be happening on the 21st, where people are coming into geometric configurations, specific numbers of people, and doing movements or meditations that are, you know, maybe they're going to open up portals or at least allow some other level of dimensional energy to be received onto this planet. So, you know, here, like this, for instance, we're definitely not alone. There's communal action that's happening, and happening on many different levels and kinds of, it's coming in lots of different ways. These people look like they're singing to me, or yelling. It's like, whoa, this is really intense. Or maybe they're singing a tone, and somehow they're,
Yeah, it does look, it looks Native American.
Native, yeah. Or Mayan, yeah, has that.
Feathers.
Okay, so that threefold geometry has swallows flying out of it. And there was a whole series of, I'm going to show a bunch of them, that had swallows in them, these birds. And I want to tell you a little bit about the symbolism of the swallow, because it's so fascinating. The swallow is a symbol that means freedom and safety. You know, when the sailors traveled out, you know, far from home, the swallows would be one of the very first birds that they would see, and they would know that land was not far. And it would be like 1,000 miles from home where the swallows would appear. And so there's some feeling of, you know, freedom, being able to go out on the ocean, but also know that safety, that home is, it's there. It's not too, it's a distance, but it's not too far. It also is a sign of having traveled a great distance, you know. So the swallows also come down and lift your soul to the heavens. People that are getting out of prison sometimes have tattoos, but they put tattoos of swallows on their arms. The swallows are associated with the imperishable stars. They have a constancy in them. I think that this thing about freedom and safety, I mean, usually we, you know, like we would like to be free, but we don't really feel safe to be as free as we think we should be. But to actually be able to feel that that we've got some kind of container, some kind, much bigger than we thought, container that's allowing us to be as free as we really want to be, as free as the swallows being able to go so far from shore. Here's another expression of it. A fractal expression of it, and this has phi ratios going on in it too. Interestingly, this particular figure came down August 4th. There had just been a conference that Michael Glickman, I seem to have invoked him a number of times tonight, had just spoken at. And at the end of the conference, he played the song Three Little Birds, which is a Bob Marley song, and the lyric in the song is, "Every little thing is going to be all right." And that had been like just a few days before. And the title of the song is Three Little Birds. And then this came down. So this kind of feeling of safety and reassurance, and yet, you know, freedom to fly. I love that. And then this one came down. This one came down in 2 stages. The first stage was just these 3 balloons, you know, and you see the birds, right? And their configuration, so they were in groups of 3, you know, 3 going this way, 3 going this way, and then the next, on Pi Day, 22/7, 3 more came out this way and 3 more got added that way. And they have these eye configurations by their wings and tails being interacting. And this figure, this figure, this is something that we're going to be seeing a lot again. And then there was this swallow, which again, you know, he's attached to some telepathic information coming down, and it also looks like a scale.
Yes.
You know, this. So there's some kind of balancing going on. Some people see this as a male. This is female. There's some Mayan numbers there. There's, you know, we know so little about how to translate this, but maybe that's
It also makes me think of, you know how in the movie The Matrix, that trilogy, when he was seeing the digital world that he was existing in, it was these streaming numbers. That's what this makes me think of, these streaming numbers that are falling like rain.
Lovely. Lovely. And that was another way to see reality, is through these codes. So there's a dimensional shift for you. This may actually be explaining to us a different way of being through reality. And certainly this guy has a different way of being through reality. Certainly the manifestation of the crop circles is coming through some kind of different way of being with reality. Boy, I think this is our galactic birth, you know? I think this is the baby crowning. And this one obviously has a lot of Mayan, Native American. It's got a whole headdress, feathered headdress thing going on, and the jaguar snot, the jaguar snout. The cervix is very, very thin, so jaguar snot. This also has a snake in the lei that looks like the light and dark, done from shadow and light, just like on Chichen Itza, you know, how the light shows the snake on the steps, only at a certain time of year. That's Quetzalcoatl, this could be Quetzalcoatl. One other thing I can tell you about this is that this looks like a face, looks like a mask, but the way that I actually see it is as a bee, and that this bee is it's really buzzing, very high vibration, and it's sipping nectar from the unknown, from this alignment that's going on, and maybe from the pineal. So there's a quote here I have. It says, "We are entering Oxlajuj, or 13 Baktum," when this came down. "A new era of the people," this is what it means, "a new era of the people made of honey. So learn traditional tools for aligning with, anchoring, and working with the powerful energies of this new era, and fulfill the Mayan prophecies of becoming the people made of honey." Like that. And here we are fully born. We've emerged, and we've been received in the birthing basket, and we are being held by all these pyramids having come online, and all around the world, and yes. Yeah. These little guys that swam in at the very beginning of the year, the season this year, their eyes are fully open, and they're a vertical eye. This is not a horizontal anymore. All of these figures have the vertical. The eye is vertical. It's pointing up. It's awakened. It's blazing. And the birth is complete here, and our pineal has got the alignment, and it's active, and you know, we're in our spaceship, and we are traveling.